Good morning. My name is Reverend Ron Card, and I would like to take this opportunity to welcome each and every one of you here this morning. I'm really glad to be here, and I hope everybody kind of remembered to turn their clocks back. You know, it was really nice getting that extra hour of sleep this morning. Now, I'm on staff here at the Center for Spiritual Living in Carlsbad, and each month what we do is we choose a topic that we're going to have for that month, a theme, some sort of theme we can carry through the month. And this is the first day of November, and our new theme for November is compassionate living. And I think it's such a great, appropriate time for this particular topic, compassionate living, considering where we are in the world today and what's going on around us. And, we have elections, we have all kinds of things coming up that I feel a separation in people, a separation in directions on way people are going. And so I think it's really nice to kind of take a time out and really step back and think about living compassionately. So that is what I want to talk about this morning, but I also wanted to talk about some of the things we can do to live a little bit more compassionate. What I have come to know about compassion is that it's a choice that we can make every day. You know, compassion, it gives us the ability to not only understand ourselves more, but also the ability to understand someone else's situation and to take action to improve or to support that in their lives. Because when we help improve someone else's life, I feel that we open the door, we open up the opportunity to also improve our lives. You know, look for an example for people who are dependent upon others for help and also for support. You know, I may be talking about you, or maybe you know someone who really depends on, for your support. You know, compassion is often the most important factor in allowing them to lead fulfilling lives, to take that step to kind of move forward. You know, it's nice to have that person that has your back or that is supporting you. But like I mentioned a moment ago, compassion is a choice that you can make at any time. You know, it doesn't require any special schooling. And a lot of times it doesn't take any extra time or any extra money, but only an awareness and a decision to lead from the heart. You know, if you really think about it, isn't that what life is all about? It's about leading from the heart. It's about seeing good. It's about seeing prosperity. It's about expressing love. I mean, this is life. And compassion really falls into that category. And while you think that you are acting with compassion to help someone else, and it certainly does help them, compassion is really more about you, about how you want to lead from your heart. You know, in the end, your compassionate actions say more about you than the person receiving it, even though it does change both of you. It does affect both of you. You both feel that, love and your support. You know, I want to talk about my neighbor, for instance, Marie, she is in her 90s and she lives alone next door. And she has a daughter that doesn't live too far away. And, it's like all children, they try to do the best they can for you, but they can't be there all the time. But I'll tell you, when Linda and I decide we want to go out and eat in the evening, we want to grab a hamburger and bring it back home, or a Rubio's or a sub sandwich or whatever it is. When we go over and tell her what we're going to do, and would you like us to bring you a sandwich or, whatever it is we're having, and, we'll come over and we'll sit and we'll eat with you, she just brightens right up. You can see the smile on her face. She just loves the company, loves the support. And even something as small as taking mail to her. You know, every day when the mail comes, it comes about 1 or 1:30. I go to the mailbox and I take my mail out and I open up her mailbox and I take her mail and I go over and I knock on her door. And she goes, "Come on in." And I open the door and say, "Mail call." And just a smile on her face, and we joke around, you know. I tell her things like, "Well, you didn't get very much, so I gave you some of my mail today. I gave you the bills," you know, and we just laugh about it. But it's just seeing her smiling face and just knowing that you're there not only for yourself, but you're there for someone else. You know, sometimes showing compassion is not always easy. You know, often the most difficult people are the ones that really need our compassion the most. And sometimes they may even hurt us or maybe even try to take advantage of us. But in our anger and in our frustration and in our hurt, we don't feel like giving them anything at all. We just feel like separating ourselves from them. But this is when we need to step back. When we need to take a look at the fear that we're feeling, to take a look at the anger, the resentment. We need to take a look at the ego that we are living in. We need to change that. When we cannot offer compassion, do you realize you limit yourself more than the other person? What it does is it dims our light. We become reactive. We become worried. And we get all caught up in what the others have done, instead of what we can do. Because it doesn't matter what anybody else does. What really matters is what we do, how we think, where we're coming from. You know, there is plenty that goes wrong in the world. You know, take a look right now. Boy, you could just feel a separation. You know, we have the elections coming up in 2 days. We have the COVID-19, which is going crazy. You know, some wear masks, some don't wear masks, some social distance, some don't. It's trying to get our kids back to school and get them back safely and ourselves back to work. You know, you can actually feel the separation, you know, that's all around us. It's even hard sometimes to even sit down and talk to people you know or to your friends. But the one thing we can do is to release the judgment and offer compassion. Release that separation. Lead from the heart. The real change becomes possible. Judgment keeps us comparing and angry, and compassion, it gives us a way out. And we must begin to heal with our hearts. We must stop overthinking things with our brain. We must let this go and work from the heart. You know, we don't have to judge and analyze every situation, but that every situation provides me with an opportunity to move closer to your values, to align yourself up with your higher self, and to live with peace and love and creativity and compassion. Root yourself in responsibility and connection. Because we must take responsibility for our mistakes and be accountable for our lives and face the consequences. But there can be some compassion in those moments. Turn on your empathy. When you fall into judgment of another, put yourself in their shoes. Imagine the shame they're feeling, or the suffering they're going through, or the wrong thinking. You know, I want to tell you a little story, because sometimes I feel that when we reach out and touch someone else, we don't realize how powerful that is. We don't realize when we show compassion to someone else, the effect that it really has. Now, there was this young man, his name was Mark, who was walking home from school one day when he noticed that the boy ahead of him what he had done. He had caught his foot on a little crack in the sidewalk, and he tripped and he dropped all of his books all over the ground, along with 2 sweaters, a baseball bat, a glove, and a small tape recorder, kind of carrying a lot of stuff. But Mark knelt down and helped the boy pick up all the things he had dropped. And since it seemed that they were going in the same direction home, he helped him carry some of his stuff. He discovered on the way home, talking to Bill, that his name was Bill, and that he loved video games and he loved to play baseball. And when they arrived at Bill's home first, he invited Mark in for a Coke and maybe some television and maybe some light conversation. And the afternoon passed pleasantly, with a few laughs and some shared talk, and then Mark decided he needed to go home. And they continued to see each other around school. They had lunch together once in a while. And they both graduated from the same junior high school. And they ended up actually going to the same high school. And over the few years there, they kind of had contact with each other. But when the long-awaited senior year came, 3 weeks before graduation, Bill asked Mark if they could talk. Bill reminded Mark of the day years ago when they first met. Did you ever wonder why I was carrying so many things home that day? You see, I cleaned up my locker at school because I didn't want to leave a mess for anyone else. And I had stored some of my mom's sleeping pills, that I was going to actually take and commit suicide. But after we spent time talking that day and laughing, I realized I didn't want to die. I would have missed that time with you and so many other good times in my life that followed. I guess what I'm trying to say is, when you picked up those books that day, you did a lot more. You touched me in a different way. You saved my life. So sometimes we don't know the depth of how much we touch other people. Compassion is something that you can develop with practice. I wish we could say we were born with it, and maybe there are some that can argue that we were born with it. But I think it's something we can develop and we can practice. And it only involves 2 things. It involves intention and action. And also a big heart. Imagine what would have happened if Mark only shook his head and just moved on. Let the kid pick up his own books. Let Mark pick up his own books. We never know what a difference we can make in someone else's life when we show compassion. And also, what a difference it makes in our lives. What I'd like to do right now is I would like to share some of the ways that you can open your heart and that you can show compassion in your life. The one thing is, it begins with you. Yes, it begins with you. The best way to learn to be compassionate towards others is to be compassionate with yourself. Like they say, you can't truly love others until you learn to love yourself first. You can't have friends until you're willing to be a friend. So the first thing is it needs to begin with you. It comes from your heart. It doesn't matter what the other person does. It matters what you do, how you react, how you see it. Another way would be to communicate, both verbally and non-verbally. Both 2 important things. We often focus on what to say when we think on how to communicate with others. But not only is it important to really think about what it is you're saying and how you're saying it, but communication really kind of goes beyond those words. One of the best ways to show compassion is to use nonverbal cues. nonverbal communication. Two, that you care. When you're talking with somebody, eye contact. Show them that you're really listening to them. Keep your body towards that person speaking and listen. Sometimes we have this thing where before the person finishes, we want to say something. We're almost interrupting them. What we need to do is step back and listen. Make the other person feel your interest, and that you both will feel more connected, because that's what you're trying to do. When you show compassion, you're connecting with that person. Another one is touch. Touch is a biggie. Sometimes that gentle touch goes a long ways. Touching is calm and a great way to show someone that you care. When someone is telling you something that happened in their life and it may not be a real good thing, just to put your hand on their shoulders, just to let them know that you understand, you're hearing them. Sometimes a person may just need a hug to lift them up. Another way would be to encourage others. Sometimes all it takes is just a little encouragement to show someone that they are capable. When we praise and we encourage others, we can sometimes kickstart a positive spiral of behavior in that person. We can help them move forward. We can show them we're there. We got their backs. That is so important when you have things going on in your life. Another one is express yourself. Many people need a listening ear when they are going through difficult times. That's why it's so important to listen. It is important to let the other person express themselves without imposing your beliefs or trying to fix them. Because sometimes people aren't looking for a quick fix. All they're looking for someone that they can talk to, that's going to listen to them, that's going to understand and allow them the opportunity to kind of maybe put this out to where they can make sense of it. But I do think that one of the best ways is by showing your emotions. Showing how you feel through your facial expressions. That you're really there, like I said before. Eye contact. Your facial expressions here. That you're listening. Your body language. And how you understand on what they are going through. These are so important when you're connecting with someone. When you're there to support someone. When you're showing compassion to someone. Show kindness. One of the best things that you can do is show kindness. Try giving your kindness without expecting anything in return. Let your kindness be unconditional. Like unconditional love. It's not always about getting something. It's just about being present and being there and being of service. Consider your words, like I've done in this talk. Always remember, think before you speak. Remember, compassion is about paying attention to the present moment with a loving attitude, because you're coming from your heart. You're not coming from your head. Now, these are some of the few ways that I've discovered on how to show compassion and live a compassionate life. But I'm sure that if you just sat down and maybe even closed your eyes and became real quiet, I'm sure you could come up with other things, a lot more things that you would be able to add to this. Now, before I end this morning, I'd like to say a quote that I found on Facebook. It was really quite unexpected. In fact, I found it this morning before my talk. But I feel it fits right in. And what it says is, when we practice loving kindness and compassion, we are the first ones to profit. Think about that. When we practice loving kindness and compassion, we are the first ones to profit. Now that's by Rumi. I want to thank you for joining me this morning. I hope you have a beautiful rest of the day, and I will see you in the upcoming weeks. Thank you.